For centuries, the Bermuda Triangle has swallowed ships, planes, and souls without a trace. Stretching between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, this vast expanse of ocean is a place where compasses spin wildly, radio signals vanish, and logic seems to crumble. Some say it's magnetic anomalies, others whisper of portals to another dimension. It is estimated that over the past century, more than 50 ships and 20 airplanes have vanished in this region, and hundreds over the last few hundred years. From Flight 19's ghostly disappearance to the eerie vanishing of the USS Cyclops, the Triangle's grip is relentless. Is it science or something far more sinister? Tonight we dive into the chilling mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, where the sea keeps its secrets and the unknown lurks beneath the waves. Stay to the end and we will reveal some answers to these mysteries. The Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle, has seen many planes and ships disappear without a trace. Since the mid-20th century, the area has been the subject of an urban legend, which claims that the many aircraft and ships that have disappeared there were under mysterious circumstances. However, other sources dismiss the idea that there is any mystery. It's interesting that Bermuda has a sinking ship flag. The story goes that it came from the British ship Sea Venture, carrying some 150 colonists bound for Virginia. It was shipwrecked on shoals off Bermuda during a hurricane in 1609. A stylization of the scene, in which a ship in raging seas appears to be crashing into a cliff, was incorporated into the island's first coat of arms, granted in 1635, an ominous beginning for a new nation that will continue to have many more mysterious mishaps. In 1881, perhaps the most mysterious encounter ever recorded in the Triangle took place. A 210-foot schooner, the Ellen Austin, set out on its regular route from Liverpool to New York City. With several weeks of sailing underway, Captain Griffin of the Ellen Austin redirected his course and found himself in the choppy waters of the Sargasso Sea. Quite a ways off course, the detour brought his crew into the sight of another boat that seemed to be navigating without agenda. Out of curiosity, the Ellen Austin approached the ship only to discover the ship had been entirely abandoned. Captain Griffin ordered some of his men to board the mystery boat so the two boats could carry on the rest of the journey in tandem. Once the boat was back in New York, its cargo could be unloaded and perhaps they could get to explore it for evidence of what happened to its crew. While the two ships got underway, a freak storm separated them. Not an uncommon occurrence with boats of that size in rough seas. When the clouds calmed, Captain Griffin spied the other boat and approached. Yet again, he found the boat abandoned. This time it was his crew members who had gone missing without a trace. Out of fear that manning the ship once more might be a death sentence for his crew, Captain Griffin abandoned the ship and made a beeline for New York, leaving the boat that seemingly devoured humans fading into the horizon. But even a human-devouring boat pales in comparison to what has come to be known as the single largest loss of life in the U.S. Navy's history, not involving combat, even to this day. Let's fast forward 37 years to 1918. But when 306 crew and passengers disappeared aboard the USS Cyclops, it was a big moment. With Lieutenant Commander G.W. Worley at the helm, this 550-foot-long boat disappeared without a trace. The vessel had played a role in World War I, transporting coal to ships all over. In March of 1918, the USS Cyclops was loaded with 11,000 tons of manganese ore to take from Rio de Janeiro to the United States. The vessel did make an unplanned stop on Barbados, her last known location. With 1,800 nautical miles to their destination, the USS Cyclops set out but wasn't seen or heard from ever again. The last message from the crew read, "Weather fair, all well." Not even an SOS message from the seasoned crew of Navy sailors was sent. The USS Cyclops, perhaps in part due to its mythological name, sparked theories about the lost city of Atlantis. Writer Charles Berlitz initially proposed that Atlantis had been swallowed up in the Bermuda Triangle, and the lost city had become a hub for paranormal activity. Or perhaps the USS Cyclops crashed into an underwater tower, its wreckage becoming a part of an undiscovered cityscape. Others questioned whether the manganese in the cargo might have exploded, or if a German U-boat lurked inconspicuously among the waves before sinking the collier ship. Perhaps it was a mutiny gone wrong that ended with everyone losing. Countless ships have ventured out onto the Triangle's water and made it back to shore without fail. but the fact remains that there are many wrecks at the bottom of the ocean. There's a reason the area around Bermuda has even been called the shipwreck capital of the world. The most notable wrecks in Bermuda fell to their final resting site below the sea because of battles and crashes into reefs. But tragically, not every ship that goes missing is found, as the mysteries around the HMS Atalanta, Ellen Austin, and USS Cyclops show. Like the empty ship encountered by the Ellen Austin's crew, ghost ships are not all that uncommon in the Bermuda Triangle. While disappearances all presumably end with the same underwater fate for passengers and boat alike, ghost ships are recovered vessels with no trace of the crew that manned them. The mystery around them seems heightened in comparison to run-of-the-mill disappearances. Consequently, the theories attempting to explain what happened also seem to escalate, as you'll see in this next story. Jumping ahead just 3 years from when the USS Cyclops vanished, let's head to the waters east of North Carolina. The Carroll A. Deering was en route from Barbados to Norfolk, Virginia. A 5-masted schooner, the ship was manned by either 10 or 11 crew members. On January 31, 1921, from the lighthouse on Cape Hatteras, the Coast Guard spotted the ship. To quote someone who saw it, quote, "The schooner, Carroll A. Deering, loomed through the mists about Diamond Shoals today, all sails set, but unmanned. Truly a ghost ship flying across the waters." By the time the vessel reached the Diamond Shoals, an ever-changing topography of sandbars off the Outer Banks, the Carroll A. Deering was beyond repair. The Coast Guard ventured out to the wreckage to find the ship entirely abandoned. According to reports, when they boarded, the sails were still set and food had been prepared, but left uneaten. There were no obvious signs of a struggle, attack, or mutiny. Just 2 days prior to the Deering's crash landing, the vessel had passed by the Cape Lookout lightship. As the two boats crossed paths, a crew member from the Deering shouted out that they had lost both anchors, but otherwise all was well. So how did things escalate so quickly? Was the ship overtaken by pirates? Was there a mutiny? If so, why would they have abandoned a perfectly good, well-stocked ship? The U.S. State Department launched an official investigation trying to find out if a band of pirates really were to blame. Questions then rose as to whether the crew's disappearance had a connection to politics at the time. Rumors grew about the possibility of Russian participation in the crew's disappearance. One newspaper reported a worldwide search going on for the Deering's crew. While the worldwide search fizzled out, strange new theories about abductions rose to the forefront, and the fervor surrounding missing ships made it all the way into one of the world's most famous director's movies. The disappearance that attracted the most theories about alien abductions was the disappearance of the Cotopaxi steamship. Steven Spielberg's 1977 sci-fi film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, features the Cotopaxi. Spielberg has his characters come across the wreck of the Cotopaxi in a most unusual place, the Gobi Desert. This film built off the theory that the Cotopaxi was swallowed up by the Bermuda Triangle, then sucked back up by aliens. Let's look into the nature of its disappearance. The SS Cotopaxi was a steamship loaded with a cargo of 3,800 tons coal. Her route was from Charleston to Havana, and she had 32 crew members on board to guide her way. The Cotopaxi left port on November 29, 1925, and was rumored to have encountered a tropical storm 2 days later. Then she was never heard from again. According to the Associated Press, the crew reported the Cotopaxi had water in its hold and was leaning to one side badly. Before it vanished entirely, distress signals were sent out, but obviously no one was able to act in time. Most of the intrigue surrounding the Cotopaxi does not come about through its disappearance, but more so the multitude of theories that people came up with to explain 32 people's disappearances. Besides the extraterrestrial encounters that Spielberg illustrated in his film, people have claimed that the SS Cotopaxi became a ghost ship. In fact, a few online rumors circulated multiple websites in the 2010s that the Cotopaxi had been spotted, floating on the water. Supposedly, members of the Cuban Coast Guard spotted an unmanned vessel heading for the island and went to intercept it. 90 years after its disappearance, this news was astonishing. How had the steamship stayed afloat for so many years? And if it was that seaworthy, where was its crew? Had rough weather shaken the crew from their posts and into the sea? Perhaps part of the crew risked a mutiny and a battle ensued, wiping out everyone. Scientists believe they have a logical answer to this phenomenon, as well as the other disappearances, but first we'll need to look into the other notable mysteries in the Bermuda Triangle with airplanes. The Bermuda Triangle does not have a vendetta against watercraft only, as air travel became increasingly popular both for military operations and recreational purposes. Instances of planes disappearing in the Bermuda Triangle rose in tandem. In 1945, one of the most notorious disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle took place. Known as Flight 19, a training mission on December 5, 1945, saw 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers fly east over the Atlantic for a routine flight and never return. The squadron of U.S. Navy planes was scheduled to fly in their own triangular formation, going east from Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale for 141 miles, then north for 73 miles, and finally back over a final 140-mile leg to complete the exercise. Flight 19's location was last given as 75 miles northeast of Cocoa, Florida. When they took off, each plane had enough fuel for 5.5 hours of flying. The flight was scheduled to take 3 hours and 13 minutes. When they gave their location for the last time, each plane had just over an hour's worth of fuel left. Records indicate that at that time, weather over the Sargasso Sea grew worse and sea conditions amplified. The airport in Miami reported a large area of turbulent weather developing from a storm raging over Georgia. By the time night fell, the storm had moved to the Miami area, creating squalls over the sea and generating 40-mile-per-hour winds at 1,000 feet elevation. Supposedly, 75 miles an hour winds were flying up at 8,000 feet. Flight 19 was covered again in the April 1962 issue of the American Legion magazine. In it, author Alan W. Eckert wrote that the flight leader had been heard saying, "We cannot be sure of any direction. Everything is wrong. Strange. The ocean doesn't look as it should." When they realized the planes were missing, the naval station dispatched a number of planes to search for the missing aircrafts. A PBM Mariner flying boat set out from Nass Banana River north of Fort Lauderdale with 13 men on board. Adding salt to the wound of an already tragic day, this rescue plane also never returned to base. That day, a total of 27 men were lost either at sea or to the sky. Reviewing the radio calls between the airmen and the base that day, it seemed that the seasoned pilots had found themselves lost over the ocean. An overheard radio call reported discrepancies between compass readings from the crew and the route they were supposed to be following. Strong winds had pushed them off course, and the crew struggled to figure out where they were. Like navigation on the seas, air travel relied heavily on using compasses to determine the proper direction of travel and how to find a location based on proximity to landmarks. Unexplained electromagnetic anomalies and atmospheric aberrations in the Bermuda Triangle region have been well documented by many writers such as John Godwin, Vincent Gaddis, and Robert Burgess. There are also a couple of official reports that carry references to electronic fog, and there is evidence for transient magnetic vortices. Experienced Bermuda pilot Bruce Jernan wrote 2 books about dangers of flying in this area. The Fog, a never-before-published theory of the Bermuda Triangle phenomenon, and Beyond the Bermuda Triangle, True Encounters with Electronic Fog, Missing Aircraft, and Time Warps. One example of him flying in the Bermuda Triangle region on December 4, 1970 with his brand-new Beechcraft Bonanza. Bruce Jernan already had about 600 hours flying time. Near the Bimini Islands, and about 27 minutes into the flight, Bruce Jernan saw a cloud near Andros and a cloud near Bimini that were the opposite sides of the same ring-shaped body. Then the cloud that formed just off of Andros Island rapidly spread outward into the shape of a donut with a diameter of 30 miles. Bruce Jernan then entered a large U-shaped opening on the west side of the donut cloud. It formed a horizontal tunnel, and as Bruce Jernan entered the tunnel for only about 20 seconds, all his electronic and magnetic navigational instruments were malfunctioning. Bruce Jernan attributed this to an electronic fog that was interfering with his instruments. Many stories are whirling around this area, but one of the theories behind the Bermuda Triangle mystery may have been solved, at least that's what a Science Channel show claims. A team of American scientists from the University of Colorado analyzed satellite weather images of this notorious area and noticed a series of unusual hexagonal clouds on them. The meteorologists theorized that these clouds might act like real air bombs. It is believed they are the main cause of the deadly blast of air, which can easily exceed 170 miles per hour. These hurricane-force winds literally blow up the air and can generate waves of more than 45 feet in length, which no ship can survive and no aircraft can withstand such a wind. Clouds don't typically form straight edges, however, judging by the satellite images, the Bermuda Triangle is an exception to this rule. The announcement of this theory has motivated a lot of further research. Scientists from all over the globe are trying to figure out what the reasons for such anomalies are. The magnetic field beneath the Bermuda Triangle has been credited with confusing pilots and sailors alike, but the geography of the area creates confusing visual markers as well. From the skies, the many islands off the coast of Florida, the Bahamas and the Caribbean in general, makes navigation confusing for people determining their position in proximity to clusters of land they spot. Like many islands, Bermuda was created by a volcano that dates back millions of years. But according to scientists, Bermuda's volcano was unlike any other on Earth. The interesting thing about Bermuda is that it was formed by a very unusual lava. The most recent research says that it's actually unique. It hasn't been discovered anywhere else in the world. Scientists have spent years studying the composition of this lava, trying to determine the source of its unusual properties, and have started to learn that it's been extremely enriched in minerals, including titanium dioxide and iron oxide, which have combined to make a mineral called magnetite. Magnetite is the most magnetic, naturally occurring mineral on Earth. Where Bermuda's volcanic rock is 18% to 20% magnetite, most soils only contain between 1% and 5%. So that's a big difference. You have more concentrated magnetite, so you have more magnetism. Volcanoes typically spew lava from the very top of the Earth's mantle, an average of 20 miles below the surface. The new study claims that when Bermuda was formed, a unique disturbance caused magma to bubble up from much farther down, 400 miles down, in fact. And according to scientists, the result is that Bermuda contains more magnetite than any known island on the planet, an estimated volume of over 400 billion tons. Now, over time, that eroded away, the slopes of the volcano or the sides of the volcano and washed into the sea, and all of the magnetite that was in that volcanic rock is now deposited up to 120 miles in all directions around Bermuda. So even though Bermuda's just a tiny dot on the map, it's a very small island. It is essentially one giant magnet over hundreds of square miles around Bermuda. Volcanic activity and highly magnetic rock. It sounds a lot like what Christopher Columbus reported on his first trip through the Triangle, along with hundreds of others since then. Studies have shown that a large magnetic field can enhance the growth patterns of certain plants, like sargassum, which is abundant in that area. The thick sargassum has also been linked to maritime accidents in the area. Could the magnetite be the source of all the mysterious weather and navigational anomalies experienced by travelers for centuries in the Bermuda Triangle? According to scientists, the answer is yes. So it appears that this massive deposit of magnetite, which can cause strange anomalies to boats and planes that are coming through the area. You can only imagine what 400 billion tons would do to a passing plane or ship. One can easily imagine an ancient mariner when, all of a sudden, his one most important tool that's helping him get back home would start to do weird stuff. We even find this warning about magnetic anomalies in the Bermuda area on maps and admiralty charts. And of course, Bermuda is at the apex of the Bermuda Triangle. If the scientists' theory is correct, all of the anomalies within the Bermuda Triangle and all of its heightened danger could come down to a question of magnetism. If that magnetic relationship is indeed the culprit, the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle may finally be close to being solved. Experts have theorized that the area's high concentration of magnetite could be causing interference with the Earth's magnetic field, leading to weather anomalies, dangerous algae growth, and problems with navigation. If that's the case, then the issue lies much deeper than the ocean floor. The question is, if the Bermuda Triangle features a deadly magnetic anomaly, how can we navigate this area safely? Do you know any other Bermuda Triangle stories? Do you have another theory for all those abnormalities? Please share them in the comments section below.